Good morning, everyone, and thanks for attending today's session. Eclipse 102, Make Your Capture Process More Efficient. We'll be reviewing a number of the embedded capabilities of capture within the Eclipse product. For those of you still on the DocStar 3X product line, this will be all the feature functionality available in the new Eclipse migration that you might have been presented with. It's a number of tools that we're going to go through. They are free, most of them, and then there's one at the end that I'm going to kind of talk to that's kind of an add-on advanced capture solution that we'll be reviewing. So on your right on the panel, just for your edification, you got your handout section, so that's where you're going to find this PowerPoint that I'm showing you today. And certainly at the end of the presentation, we're going to do a 4-step demonstration, and then certainly if you have any questions, feel free to do that on the panel on your right there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just do a couple quick slides here so that I can kind of frame the capabilities within the system. So today's objective is really to show you all these different capture methods that are available that you might not know about, that are included in the core product. There are a couple add-on features that I'll talk to. And then basically, depending on your particular process, we'll come in and discuss your specific capturing needs. A couple things to consider when capturing is certainly how you're going to classify documents. So that can be done either manually during your prepping station. So for instance, you have your invoices, you stack those together, you put your purchase orders together, and in that particular case, you scan as a content type. You also have to look at different types of separation. In some cases, when I tell our customers when they're doing AP invoice batch scanning or human resource scanning, the separation. So in common processes, you usually have 1, 2, or 3 base page sets. So you have invoices that are single pages, double pages, and 3 pages in length, and you're going to separate those into individual batches. When you're capturing, security is obviously also an issue. That's why we use things like folders and security classes. So, for instance, if you're bringing in HR onboarding packet, there's certainly medical information, salary review information that needs to be separated based on that particular type of document. So we can automate that typically through cover sheets, which I'm going to show you today. Physical location, obviously other, big piece. So if you have geographically distributed offices, satellite locations that only have internet connection to one another, things like email, be able to go up to your copier and scan to an email, that's a great use of that type of technology and our ability to monitor and bring in those emails. You don't need any type of connectivity into somebody's network, so there's a lot less complexity around scanning when you're at another location, physical location. And obviously network access. In this particular case, if you have 2 offices and they don't talk to one another, either through like a VPN or what they call a meshed WAN, then things like the ability to email or FTP documents are ideal. All right, so today's agenda, we're going to go through kind of the scanning, setting up your scanner, and then we're going to review all the different capture methods. I think I go through 10 of them. And then we're going to get into a live demonstration. We're going to build 4 different types of capture methods today, and certainly these are high level. We could certainly get more in depth with you as needed. All right, so the first thing, setting up your scanner, introducing what we call the client application. This is available if you go and you see in your system tray in Eclipse, there's this little round ball here. So you'll see that when I click on it, it opens up this client interface. Okay, so the client interface is where you're going to go and set up your capture, and this is where you're going to set up all your basic default settings. So you'll see here the Eclipse client. This is where you're going to configure your device, and you see I don't have a scanner currently connected, along with all of the different settings. So a couple things when you're talking about scanning. Certainly from a settings perspective, a lot of people don't realize this color section here: black, white, grayscale, and color. If you don't have to scan in color, scan in black and white when you can. Obviously, a 2-bit document is black and white. Color can either be 24 or 32-bit. So as you can imagine, the storage size and retrieval speeds are going to be much quicker when you're doing black and white. Certainly, if you have to scan in color, certainly do that. You also have DPI settings. You see here resolution 200 DPI. Typically, you want 240 and above. 300 DPI is ideal for things like OCR. So 300 DPI is ideal for those of you that don't require the various OCR capability. Then 240 DPI resolution would be fine, and DPI is dots per inch. Auto size detection for those of you that utilize or scan in mixed sorts of documents, like a small receipt and then a large 8.5 by 11 legal. You're going to want to use the auto size detection. This is going to allow you to feed different pieces of paper with varying lengths and sizes. Then you have all the separation capabilities. So at the bottom here, you'll see document split methods. This is what I was talking about before. Depending on your process, the hardest thing in batch scanning is just the separation, figuring out automatically how to take a big stack of paper and separate it. So typically we like to prep our documents by pages. So you have all single page documents. That's easy. You can use our single page function. This breaks every page essentially. So if you scanned 10 pages, you would have 10 separate rows. That's obviously harder to do when you have more mixed sorts documents, things like mortgage packets, where you're not really sure where it starts and stops. In those cases, we can either use a blank page, so use a blank piece of copy paper, but obviously if you are scanning in duplex, where you're scanning the front and back of a document, the back of the document might be blank, so a blank page might not work in that particular case. So we're going to be showing you a little bit more detail here as it relates to separation, and we're going to do a little bit more with barcode. So you see here the ability to, this is an extra module, but you're going to have the ability to separate on barcode and separate when a barcode changes. So for instance, you might have a barcode value of 1, and then you get to the next barcode and it has a value of 2. That's where it changes and it reads the value of the barcode and then would change. You also can just separate on any barcode or a specific barcode prefix. So barcodes are ideal, one, because you can do a page level verification for a barcode. You can look anywhere on the particular document for a barcode. So basically the barcode is the best method for that. Now a barcode can be static, where in certain situations, for instance, you always have the same barcode value. So for instance, document types in an HR scenario where you have a W4 and I-9, those are very common formats, and as a result you can have pre-printed barcode that you slip in between. And we're going to show you that today in our demonstration. Okay. We also sell desktop scanners. We do sell the Panasonic. We find that they, with the 3-year warranty, are the best for that type of process. We do see that scanners, for instance, like if you are in a process where you're scanning heavily each day, a desktop scanner is going to be a lot more effective than going to the copier. But certainly, if you have kind of a centralized scanning location and you want to be able to scan that way, we can do that too. All right, so when you get into the actual scan settings within the Eclipse interface, you'll see that you can override those client-side settings. And you'll be also prompted with a number of other capabilities like image enhancement, deskewing, despeckling. Certainly if you're trying to do a zone OCR, which we're going to do in our demonstration, where we're looking at an XY coordinate on a page, image enhancement and deskewing are going to be a lot more important. At the same point in time, when you're using a zone approach, you need to have the best OCR possible, because it's literally it's looking at all the little dots on that particular page to extract that value, and the clearer the image, the better. Okay, we do have the ability to also auto-rotate documents. So for instance, if you're scanning in landscape versus portrait, we can auto-rotate so it's in the right direction. Obviously, that's important if you're doing any type of OCR. OCR zones are usually left to right. If you're kind of scanning a landscape document in portrait, the zone's not going to match. You're going to have to rotate it to the right 90 degrees for us to be able to appropriately apply the OCR. All right, so some of the other manual import settings. So you'll see when you go into the client application, you have the scan and the import. So a few things here, and I'm just going to pop open that Eclipse interface here. You'll see under the capture, you have kind of reviewed the scanning settings here. Now you also have here the import settings. So a few things here. One, you'll notice if you click the down arrow on the right of the browse, you're going to notice a little bit different file select. So you can, depending if you're on a mobile device like a tablet, you'll be able, when I hit the browse, you get a little bit different look and feel. It's a little bit more optimized for a mobile select versus a Windows select, where it's just your standard Windows dialog. Okay. You also have some limited options, not as many as you'll notice when we looked at the scanning. You have single and blank page out of the box. You do have barcode you can do, but that is an add-on module, and you'll notice there's a lot less, things like auto size detection, the different rotating is still available here as well, but a lot less functionality from an import perspective. Okay, so things like merging documents and all of those types of things are available in the core results grid, regardless of whether you're scanning or importing. Everything you do within that particular document, in this particular, here you see when I do grab a particular document, and I'm going to select two for our particular purpose. When I do select both, they're going to come into our kind of list action area, and then we're going to be able to apply any of the bulk list action items. That could be, as you see here, the ability to merge, unmerge, delete. So in situations where you want to combine pages, this is how you would do it. You would come in here and hit the merge, and now we have a two-page document instead of two one-page documents. Okay, so the list actions are available regardless if you're scanning or not. If you notice up here, if I close my client application, I'm just going to close it here. Close. You're going to notice that this bar at the top now will become gray. Okay, so it says, hey, I don't have it connected. The client application is not connected, which means I cannot scan. You need the client application to be able to scan. And you'll notice here it's gray. It's saying, hey, I can't connect. Anybody utilizing scan or office integration does need that client application. So once I start the client, I'll just type in client here. See, that will open up. It will come into my system tray, and that will now turn to yellow. Okay. If I click on that little link there, you'll see that it automatically did it for me, and now we're back. Okay, so that is important, the client application being connected. All right, so let's talk a little bit about batch import. This is where we would leverage the ability to monitor a hot folder directory, monitor a email inbox or a folder within a specific email box, the ability for us to consume a CSV or an XML data file that has a path to the image. So a lot of the service bureaus that do the backfile scanning or you're importing from another system, we can ingest this CSV or an XML data file. Okay. Again, this is all done on the client application, and there's a Windows service that runs in the background called the automation service that actually runs the schedule and runs the actual engine. So make sure that this Windows service is running to ensure that it does pull in that information. So you can also schedule all these things down to the 15 seconds. In fact, they probably even do it every second. But basically, as I'll bring up in here, this particular client application can be set up either on a server or on an individual basis. So I'll just grab that here and we'll open it up. And you'll see under batch import, you have this kind of dialog here. So here's just an example. I'm just going to refresh here. And here's an example of monitoring a directory. So I'm monitoring this particular folder. And when I grab the file in that folder, I'm going to put it into the AP invoice content type. Okay. And I'm going to schedule that to run every 15 seconds. Okay, so basically this is just like a hot folder monitoring. Your copier can scan to a folder, we pick up from that folder, and we then import it into the system. Okay, so that can be done in a number of different ways. We're going to go in a little more detail on that as we move through here. Okay, but a lot of people don't know about that nice feature. All right, so the first thing is the email capture as part of that batch capture. We talked a little bit about the benefits. You have multiple offices, you don't have any connectivity between them. This is a great way to set up the email. So as you see here, we could set up typically a process email box. So if you had Office 1, 2, and 3, you might have an email box for each. And when we grab emails from Office 1, we know where it came from. We can also, as part of the core system, we can read the email header data, the to, the from, the subject. So for instance, when we bring in something, I can parse out the email and tell who it came from. So if I see here, it came from B. Wessler, and I parsed out B. Wessler, I can then move that to his queue, or for instance, if there was a subject line that had some data in it that was relevant to a specific content type, we could then move that into another appropriate content type folder within Eclipse. So again, the nice thing about email is there's some descriptive information within the header of that email to tell us what to do with it. Okay, so this is ideal for process box, not your personal email box. Accounting invoices at, HR documents at, contracts at, and that would then come into a contract content type right into the system. And this supports IMAP and POP, so this is ideal for any type of system, whether it be Gmail, Exchange, Yahoo, Mail, doesn't matter. We support pretty much anything. Okay. The second is the drag and drop. So this is basically on my desktop. I've created some icons here. So I'm going to just quickly go to my desktop. And you'll see on the top left here I have these different icons. All they are is a hot folder. So you see here I have my AP Docs folder. And when I drag something into this folder, it's going to then call our batch import. So basically all I've done is created a local folder, and I've told my batch import to monitor that folder every 15 seconds, and when it grabs that information, to bring it into my keyword content type into my AP Docs inbox. Okay, so it's really easy to set up. You simply go into the client interface, as we'll do here. And when I do that, we can just come under the new here, and we can type in the new area. We'll call it send to PO. You can call it whatever you want. And you'll see here, I'm going to look at this particular path. And you have the little browse button over here on the right. So I can certainly just go out and you see send to PO. Okay, and then I want that to come into a purchase order. Okay, purchase order. Okay, I don't want it to come in the inbox because my purchase order content type is going to tell it to go to this purchase order folder. Okay, and then we do have some pre-processing options. Again, all the same typical import options that are available in the client UI. And you'll see here, I'm going to have it run every 15 seconds, and I just simply hit save. And now that's done. We have that profile now saved here, send to PO, which is available. And when I send something into there, so we can just go back to our desktop, I can then drag something in. I'm just going to drag that in here. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm simply just going to drag it over to my send to PO, and you're going to see that that will come in to our system automatically, or I can actually click this test button here, test import, and you see that there's a document there ready to come in, and very easily done. Hit save, and now you'll see that it's no longer in that folder. Okay, so basically drag and drop is done through a simple create a folder and create a batch directory import. Very easy to do. There is docstar.com/help. All of this kind of how-tos are available in that particular site, docstar.com/help. Okay, structured OCR. This is there's two ways to do this. I'm going to show in our example. We're going to actually want to extract a value, an XY coordinate, from a document, typically the first page. This is most ideal when you generate the documents. This isn't going to be something that you can do on an AP invoice or on a contract you receive from somebody. You have to make sure that that value is always in the same spot. So things like purchase orders you create, invoices you create, those are most ideal. And we're going to go into a live demonstration and show you actually how to create these. A lot of important things to think about. White space. That means that, as you see here in this example, the pound sign customer PO, and then the number sign, and then 0830-2008. That's a little tight in there. Certainly to the top and to the bottom and to the right of the 0830-2008, there's some white space, but there's not a whole lot before it. So it's really important that you have enough white space area where that zone can shift so that it's not picking up rogue characters. Okay, so that is important. OCR like this is very, if there's a lot of white space, you're probably, 70%, 75% automation. The lower the amount of white space and more skewing, the lower that's going to go. The other thing is you tend to always want to kind of try to get one unique variable. The more zones you try to extract from, the more failure points. So typically what we try to do is grab one unique variable like this PO number, go out and take this PO number and go to do a data link. A data link is the ability for us to take and do a database lookup. So we take this number and we go out and we say, hey database, give me the other information, in this particular case the vendor name, invoice date, invoice number, invoice amount, and bring those data values back from the database and populate our document. Obviously the benefit to this is lower costs around capture and data entry costs. It's a very small price for the type of data entry automation we can offer. And we typically sell this with each system that we implement. Okay, we're actually going to show that live. We're also going to show this live as well. So this is a cover page approach. So this is where you can create, cover pages. And the idea is, on situations like this, you have an existing database of names or users that you want to enable. So creating a barcode for every document you scan is probably not going to be the best approach. It will take you longer to create the barcode than it would to just index the document manually. So these are ideal for things like terminated employee files. You have boxes of paper, you have a database of all the terminated employees. We do a mail merge, essentially. A barcode's just the font. So we can download these fonts free of charge, available on the internet. And we'll go into some detail on the ones that we typically use. Code 39 is one of the ones that are most ideal. And the other thing is once we extract the barcode, we can do that we can zone the whole entire page. So unlike a zone OCR where you have to actually look in an XY coordinate, you can actually draw a zone over the entire page of that document to find that barcode. So there are barcodes are very forgiving in terms of shifting and looking for barcodes. You can kind of look for them anywhere. That's why they're great for separation. They're very much more accurate than any type of OCR, which is optical character recognition, which is reading text off of a page. Okay, so that's what we call page level verify, the ability to look in the entire page for something like that. So you can buy a barcode license, 1 or 2D. The 1Ds are a little less expensive, and this is going to save you a ton of time, and we'll show that demonstration. So here's just an example of one I created in Excel. So you have a number of ways to kind of create these barcodes. A lot of your ERP systems can print a barcode. You certainly can use things like mail merge, which is it's in Word, Microsoft Word. We can also create a cover sheet creator we've done for banking applications. And we also have this Eclipse virtual cover sheet. It's a concept, it's a little different concept, but it's great when you're integrating with something like a data link, where we go out and you're in your source system and we actually create the data from the screen. It's a little bit more of a discussion topic for another day. But I'm going to double click here. Oops, sorry. And kind of show this. Let me escape there and kind of and show this. So when I open this up now, you'll see it's just an Excel spreadsheet. So I've created a drop down here of available names. So you'll see here that this essentially when I change the name here, it changes the barcode below it. Okay. Same with the application. I have the various different types, and it changes the barcode below it. Okay, so basically the barcode is just the font. So if you see here up in the top, you'll see free 3 of 9 barcode. If I was to put Courier New Roman, you'll see here what the actual type looks like. So it's physically using it's really just a font. And see here we have a number of different kinds. Code 128 and code 3 of 9 are the typical most common barcodes. Okay. All right, so we're going to show actually those documents going through that process. All right, the other here is the print driver. This is, again, free of charge. This allows you to basically print from any Windows print dialog directly into the system. You're on a web page. You're in your line of business system. You want to print the screen or print the document into the system. Just simply do File Print and select the Eclipse PDF driver. That is available in the Eclipse client. So you'll notice all the modules in the Eclipse client. So there's a modules tab here, and you'll notice print import and office integration are the two that we're going to show today. And those are available right here within the modules section. So you can go ahead and install this print or office integration wherever you'd like. It comes free of charge. Okay, the Microsoft Office connector. This is something that's available for Office 2010 and above. It supports the 4 main products, Word, Excel, Outlook, and PowerPoint. For Office 365, the Outlook integration works. The other 3 are being slated for the 1704 release. Okay, this is a COM add-in. It allows you to have this little Eclipse tab with the Save to Eclipse capability here. There's some enhanced functionality that allows for version control. So when you check out a document in Eclipse, the web client, when you go in and open that in Word, for instance, if it is a Word document, you're going to see this section here, this check-in section highlight, and it will go from gray to what you see below here, and will allow you to physically check in the document. It saves probably 3 or 4 clicks than it did before. Before you'd have to save it in Word, then go back into the Eclipse interface, hit the check-in button, choose and browse out to grab that file. Now it's all integrated right within Office. So it's a nice little feature built in. So Office Connector, you can install that from the Modules tab right within the client application as well. Or call us and we can do it. All right, so some other ways, certainly if you have mixed sorts of documents, you're scanning in a bunch of things, built into the application is the ability to capture and burst. These are some things that you might not be familiar with. So when you do capture, there's a few things that you need to be kind of aware of. If you do capture either through our import or scan and you select 1 page per file within the setting, you do not have to select the burst content item. So basically, if you scan in 3 pages, those 3 pages stay together. To be able to take page 2 or page 3 or page 2 and 3 from that document, you need to select the burst content item. That will then separate into 3 separate pieces that you can then take out of that document. So for instance, I'm just going to pop open an example here. We'll open up our client interface, and I'm just going to grab a document that has more than 1 page. So let's just grab, we'll go to contracts here. Okay, and so we have more than 1 page. Now, I have my thumbnails enabled. So when I right click, you're going to notice I have this burst content item. Okay, so you're going to have to select all your pages. Oops, sorry. All your pages here. Burst content item. And so when I do that, it's going to burst all the documents out into individual items. Now, it looks like I've already done that. So then I can delete pages, I can reorder pages, and I can also split the document. So for instance, if I said page 1, I want to be its own document, and then the remainder of those documents pages, I want to be a new document. I can do literally the document split at page 2, and I can call it, CMB number 2, and I can tell it it's a contract type, and when I hit split, it's going to basically split. So I have that 1 page, and the remaining 11 pages is now in its own document. You'll see that here. Okay, so I have page, so when we split, we basically have page 1. It's its own new document, and page 2 through 12 are now its own document as well. Okay, so that's a good use of kind of scan everything in and then kind of split where you want to throughout the page. Now I could then take the next document here that's 11 pages and then split at page 3 and now make that a new document. So as you can see, you can quickly split up the document in an Adobe S-type way. Okay. All right, so the next thing is the unstructured, and I'm going to, I'm kind of running short on time here, but we're going to go into this in a demonstration. But basically, this is the ability to just auto everything. You just want to stick a stack of papers, and the document system will classify, separate, extract all the data, and even line item information. This is great for things like AP invoices, where you don't have a structured XY coordinate, things where you have line items that might separate between pages, purchase orders, sales orders, transcripts, mortgage documents, AP invoices. Those are the types of situations where you're going to want to use an unstructured engine. We have a tool that's specifically built for invoices. And it is something that would literally reduce your hard costs as it relates to labor, not only adjudicating, entering all that data, but also matching that data. Remember, if we're able to extract all this data up front, we can then match it downstream. So there's a lot of that residual benefit as well. We'll do a quick live demonstration on that. Lastly is the ability to outsource. You don't want to do anything. we come and pick up all your boxes, we scan everything for you. Or we have this what we call easy forward service where you scan it and then we separate, extract, and push all the documents and the data right into your Eclipse system or a system of your choice. So it's kind of an outsourced approach. It's usually around, depends on what you have and how much indexing you want, but typically 30 cents per image, not per document. I'm sorry, per document, not by page. And you know, this is a nice, if you have a low volume, you don't want to do the scanning yourself, this is a nice little feature. Okay, so I'm going to do 4 separate demonstrations. The first one is we're going to take in an OCR document so that we can keyword search it. This is a very common thing, maybe a lot of people don't know about. Then we're going to do cover sheet indexing. So we're going to take 3 different document types, 3 different employees' documents, and we're going to separate on the barcode, and we're going to index based on the barcode. We're going to remove the barcode page, and then we're going to put that document into the right folder. Okay. Then we're going to do a zone OCR with a data link. So we're going to look at an XY coordinate, extract the value through OCR, and then perform a lookup. And then lastly, if there's time, we'll do the advanced capture piece. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is just end this here, and let's get into a live demonstration. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up, and we're going to do a quick workflow here and show you how to create what we call convert to text. It's a very easy one. Okay, so this is a one-step workflow. So I'm going to come in here, and it's literally just one value here. So as you notice on the left, we're going to drag over the OCR function. Now this is ideal for things that are image-based. When you do have electronic documents, Word, Excel, you're going to use the extract text box, not the OCR box. Okay, but in this case, we're going to do images. So the first thing we're going to do is there's this what we call a text output. So if you use $text, this is the variable that stores all the keywords. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is just draw we're just going to look for any document, and we're going to draw a generic zone. So as you see here, kind of in blue, you'll see that it's all blue. I drew a zone over the entire page, and you can see. To draw a zone, you just right-click, and you have your recognition, get region, and you draw a box on top of the document here. Okay. So basically, what that's doing is it's 8.5 by 11. It's basically looking and extracting all that OCR text, and it's putting it into this variable here. So you'll notice now that I have this all set up, I'm just going to go and grab a document. So we'll bring in a document quickly here, and so let's grab. I'll just do this invoice for ease of use purpose here. And instead of enabling our AP workflow on this particular invoice, I'm going to tell it to use our convert to text. Okay, here. So I'm going to select here, convert to text, okay, and then I'm going to hit submit. Okay, so what's going to happen there is obviously that's going to go into the distributed queue. It's going to start being worked on, and you'll see here, convert to text, and we're going to see in the workflow that it's in action, and it's working, okay? So we'll just refresh this here a few times until it's done. It will say complete. And then we're going to search for words within the body of the document. So basically what happens is in this section here, you'll notice under actions, you have this show document text. Okay, so when this is done, this will be full of document text. Okay, and that's what that text, $text does. It's basically putting all the data into that particular text field. Okay. Looks like that's taking a little bit longer. That's what you get for showing things live. Running, good. Okay. Okay, and it complete. Okay, so now when I go to here, document text, you're going to see document text. You see all of the data that's associated with that. So simply by using that OCR and then the output putting $text, now it's keyword searchable. So if I want to look for this customer ID 33345, 33345, I put in our search results, and that will return our invoice that we just grabbed here. And while I can use show text, which shows this, by using the keyword, you also have show hits. And by doing that, now I can find, as you can see here, it highlights in blue on the text layer where it finds that word. Okay, so that was just a quick one there. Okay, so the next one I want to do is the zone OCR. It's a natural progression here. So in this one, it's a two-step. So we're going to do a zone OCR on this purchase order. Okay, so again, I'm going to drag in the OCR one here. And you'll see the output is I'm going to extract the PO number. So when I hit Get Region, and I just bring open, I'm going to type in Acme here. Okay, so we're going to grab a sample of the purchase order. So you'll notice on the right how I have this blue box. So again, I can right-click, Get Region, and I can then drag another box around. So you could have multiple regions. In this case, I'm going to be focusing on this PO number at the top. I'm going to hit Cancel so I don't screw that up. Okay, so basically it's going to zone OCR. It's going to extract that PO number. And then it's going to pass that PO number to a waiting data link. Okay, so in this particular case, what I'm doing is I'm trimming, because when you zone OCR, sometimes there's spaces to the left and to the right. So I'm going to use our string format here. I'm going to grab the PO number. I'm going to output the PO number, but I'm going to trim any spaces to the left and right of the extracted OCR. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to then pass it to this data link here that's going to return the vendor name and the invoice number. Okay, so let's do a quick capture here. So I'm going to go into my capture. I have set up a test OCR doc type just for our testing purposes. I'm going to grab that purchase order, and we're going to upload that. And I'm going to apply that particular workflow. In this particular case, I called it Test Zone OCR. So you see that in our workflow. So when I hit Submit here, that's going to come into our workflow queue, and that's now going to process through. That, given the OCR is going to take a few seconds to process, I'm going to start a separate one now. I'm going to do a barcode capture. Okay, so I'm going to bring in, under our HR documents here, I'm going to bring in a 8-page document, and it has barcodes on it. I'm going to show you that. Scan chart cover. There we go. So in this particular case, I prepped my documents. I pre-printed these cover sheets out using Word Mail Merge. I've gone over to my Terminated Employee file folder. So you can see here is 8 pages. The first page is Howard Stern. It's a resume. There's a barcode there, and then behind that is his resume. And then, but you see here we have Maggie and her W-4, and then the W-4 for Maggie. Maggie actually has, there's 2 pages to the W-4, so you see that. And then on page 6, we find Brent and his W-4, and then certainly the next 2 pages are Brent's W-4. So basically when I hit Submit here, what happens is the system will hit the barcode. The OCR and the barcode recognition will do 2 things. It will split the document. It will extract the type and the employee name. We use that as index information, and then we'll put it into the appropriate folder. So this is the batch barcode import. So this is what this particular one looks like. So we're going to do separate and extract. Okay, so the first one is barcode. We're going to read the employee name, and then we're going to do OCR on the document type field. Okay, then we're going to split on the barcode. So you got the split on barcodes. We're using the code 39 extended. Code 39 is probably the best one to use, depending on what values exist. The reason is because it uses terminators. So if you run into lines or other things, it's going to ignore those. Then I have all the values that it extracts. I have it actually creating the employee folder and then changing the title to the employee's name and to the doc type. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looked like. We go in now, Human Resources. We go to Brent's folder. We'll see the W-4 for Brent. So you notice how the barcode page is gone. It automatically extracted that information. And then it deleted the barcode page. And then it put the doc type as W-4, and it automatically made employee name, and then it created Brent's folder. Okay, and we go to Howard. Here's Howard's resume. Again, the cover sheet gone. And we go to Maggie, and we see her W-4, her two-page W-4 here as well. Okay, so all of that done. If I go back to, so that was basically the barcoding. As you could see, when you scan in batch, and you know kind of the, there's a set of common criteria like employee name, it's easier to do things like this. If we go back to our OCR example, you'll see here, this now finished up. It extracted the PO number automatically. It then went out and populated our invoice number and our vendor name right here. Now, there's another way to do this as well. As you notice, we did this all through a workflow. Sometimes it's hard for people to do. If you open up a document and click the cogwheel here, you're going to notice you also have a zone feature here as well. So this little box here, I can click, and then I can also create a zone here as well. And this would do similar process, except it would, requires the client to do that imaging. But as you can see here, we can have it do that and extract that information. So it now highlights in purple. So every time you capture a document into the test OCR content type, it's going to try to zone OCR that purple box on the right. Okay, so that is how the text OCR kind of worked out. All right, so the last piece here, and I know I'm going kind of quick, I apologize for that, but it is all recorded. We're going to take a couple invoices, and we're going to show, so I'm going to take these 3 invoices, and we're going to copy these into a hot folder. Okay, so I'm going to copy these into the hot folder, and when I do that, the system is going to go out, paste. It's going to go out and it's going to extract, separate the documents, extract all the data, and then show us what we got for that. So this uses our advanced capture. So here we've extracted all the data. So as you see, in this particular case, it can, when I click in the fields, it's showing where it extracted that information from. So this doesn't use a zone approach. This is ideal for semi-structured and unstructured documents where zones, you can't create zones. Invoices are so unstructured. Every vendor looks and feels different. So this uses spatial relationships and synonym matching to find values. So you see here in the invoice number field, it found the word invoice and # to delineate that likely underneath or to the right, left, up, or down that value exists. It also is capable of extracting line item information as well. Okay, this can also pull line items. In certain situations like this here, you notice you have the deinterlacing of line items, where you literally have 2 line items, this quantity, this is part of the previous line, and it knows better to not extract that information as a separate line. We then can also use what we call our click entry to then grab things like, for instance, here in a QA perspective, it wouldn't grab the part numbers, so we can simply come in and use our click entry, which uses an OCR tool to extract that information without having to manually key in any of that. Okay, and then as you can see here, we can also do lookups. So for instance, here we found a phone number. Well, that phone number actually can be looked up to a database. So here, that phone number is actually adjudicated to 2 different particular vendors. So I can select the appropriate vendor, and when I hit select here, you'll see that the fields get populated. So this is our advanced capture. When we're done, we essentially export these documents, and then they end up fully indexed into, in this particular case, our workflow here. And we'll go into our workflow, and you'll see all the documents fully indexed here for us. And when we open them up, documents, the index here and all the line item data is automatically available for searching. So obviously in that particular case, you reduce a lot of the manual keying. You're just validating low confidence characters, things that are missing that need somebody to keep an eye on. But typically 90% automation in terms of capturing those types of documents.